evening. Welcome to Voices from the Village. This is, my name is Louis LaFortune. Our show tonight is called Shelter in the Churches. And we are going to be talking about the homeless problem here in Santa Cruz County and about what the local churches are doing about it. My guest, well, let me show, we're going to watch a video first before we get into, before I introduce my guests. In 2008, the UCSC TV, Slug TV, did a piece about homelessness in Santa Cruz County, and we're going to hear from people who are involved with this. We're going to hear from the, I think the director of the Downtown Association, and also Ken Cole from the Homeless Services Center. So let's watch that video now, please.
Many locals and students associate the downtown area of Santa Cruz with homelessness. One of these reasons is because of the amount of panhandling that occurs down here. Businesses are also beginning to notice the problem.
And I see them elsewhere. I definitely feel that people hanging outside of the stores deters customers from coming in.
Well, the panhandling, I think they're kind of aggressive sometimes, and they're not really nice. Yeah, I do think most of the panhandlers are homeless. To find out more, I interviewed Keith Haltaway, the executive director of the Downtown Association.
And I think, again, confusing panhandlers with, or quote, homeless, is not always an accurate connection and not always 100% true. There's a lot of people who panhandle downtown, a lot of kids who do literally take the bus back to their house up wherever they need to go. Most of the people who are homeless aren't downtown panhandling. It's just a very small group that we do.
2.5 minutes.
Homelessness is a growing issue in Santa Cruz County, with numbers staggering at over 3,400. There simply isn't enough funding. And with shelters closing for spring and summer, including the National Guard Armory, which provided nearly 100 beds, many people are left with no place to stay. According to the 2005 Santa Cruz County Homeless Census and Survey, there are a total of 3,371 homeless in Santa Cruz County, including 187 families and 171 children. With shelters turning away a quarter of applicants and others closing for spring, many are forced to stay in abandoned buildings, parked vehicles, or even on the streets. Ken Cole, the executive director of the Homeless Services Center, had this to say.
The Homeless Services Center is a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to providing emergency services and trying to give people opportunities to move up and out of their homelessness. We have 4 major programs. One is an open day center where we provide meals and showers and basic assistance to people just on a walk-in basis. We also have an overnight emergency shelter program through local churches and the National Guard Armory in the rainy season. We also have a transitional housing program where people can stay up to 2 years to get jobs and move off the streets. And our latest program is a family emergency shelter. We operate the National Guard Armory as an emergency shelter. We have to close that every year in late March or mid-April. And the way I describe it is like driving off a cliff. That's what it feels like. And to the hundreds of homeless people that use that shelter over the wintertime, it makes no sense. You know, 1 minute the bed's there, the next minute I'm telling them it's gone. But any way you look at it, on the emergency services level, there's not enough beds, there's not enough opportunities for people on the street. We have really just a pittance of emergency capacity in this community.
The county has been acknowledging this growing issue, but with limited resources and funding, there is little they can do, and the problem will remain unresolved. To find out ways you can help, you can visit www.scshelter.org. This is Christina Bashai reporting for Banana Slug News. Back to you in the studio.
And welcome, and we're back. So that was a video. Again, it was shot by Slug TV, UCSC Television, and thank them for letting us use that. It's from 2008, and we heard some numbers in there about the numbers of people who are homeless in Santa Cruz on any given night. As you may know, every 2 years a survey is done of homeless people in Santa Cruz County, and this is mandated in order for the county to receive federal money for funding. The numbers we heard were around 3,500 a night. There's a huge huge number, much larger than I would have suspected before I learned about this some years ago. So we're going to talk about that and what various people are doing here about this in Santa Cruz County. So my guests here tonight, let me start with you. Across from me is Steve DeFields Gambrell, and you are with the Circle Church. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Christine Perrin is a member of the vestry of the so-called Red Church, the Calvary Episcopal, our beloved Red Church in downtown Santa Cruz. And Paul Seaver, you were with Trinity Presbyterian Church.
That's right.
Thank you for joining us. And finally, Reverend Jim Weller. Good. Okay, I got that right. And you're with First Congregational Church. That's the one up on High Street.
Right. First
Okay.
Congregational up near Bay.
Yes, right. Well, thank you all for joining us tonight. So there is the reason you're all involved, the reason you're here tonight, you're all involved with this church shelter program, and which is a program that well, tell me, what does it do? What is the church shelter program? Anyway.
It's a program in which 4 churches currently are participating, and each of us on one night of the week shelters a group of homeless men, women, and children, feeding them supper and providing them a comfortable, safe place to sleep for the evening.
Okay, all right. So it's not just shelter, it's also, there's a meal.
Yes.
Okay. So how long, Chris Perrin, you're a member of the vestry,
Right.
which is, I assume, the
Governing body,
governing body
basically.
of Calvary Episcopal.
Right.
And what is, and as a member of that, you have some involvement with this program, as you do, I guess, with all the programs in the church. How long has this program been in place at your church?
Well, it's been in place since February. Actually, if I could for a minute give you a little history.
Sure.
Father Joel Miller, our rector at Calvary, invited, I don't know how many, hundreds of churches, synagogues, city and county agencies, interested persons from the community. This is, I think, November of 2010, to a forum we had on a Saturday afternoon to discuss the homeless problem and the homeless problems that the homeless people face. He, out of this group of people, they formed a committee called the Association of Faith Communities, or AFC, to make it easier. And this committee meets every month, and they discuss what can be done, what's available, where can we go. So Father Joel from this committee then went to the vestry and said, we'd like to try to do a shelter program. Well, a lot of discussion, a lot of back and forth to the parish, a lot of forums, because we felt we really had to get this explained well, have very firm guidelines for how it was going to be run. So it took some months. So we actually were ready to go in February, and we decided that we would open the doors to women with children, because at the time there were 50 women on the waiting list at the homeless shelter who were obviously had no place to go. Well, we were kind of disappointed because nobody wanted to come. And then we found out that these women had a place generally that was safe, a car, maybe a friend's couch, and to uproot their children, as you said earlier, they don't like to be visible, especially when they have young children in tow. So we had no responses. So then we said, okay, we're going to open the doors to men, women, and women with children or families. So that's what we did. And I think it was probably, I don't have the exact date, unfortunately, but around the end of February, early March that we started getting our first guests. And so we've been doing it every Monday night since then. And then we were joined shortly thereafter by these 3 wonderful churches who each took a night. So that's kind of how it got going.
So there are 4 churches that are participating, and they're all
Right.
represented here
I
tonight.
got to know about the program by going to those AFC meetings and became aware that this was happening. Now, there had been a shelter program in our community some years ago. It was run out of the homeless shelter, the Rebelli Center, and it was much more formally run, but it had funding. The funding was lost and the program stopped. But we'd had some history in our church of working with homeless people and providing shelter. So I kind of felt this will go in our church. So I proposed that we join in, and we started toward the end of April. I had the same experience. The first night nobody came. And you know, it reminds me a lot of the parable about going out in the streets, you know. One of the Gospels, there's a parable where the man wants to have a wedding banquet and nobody comes. Everybody has an excuse, and he tells the servants, go out in the streets and bring people in. I think it's kind of amazing, the parallels.
So, as you were both saying, the first night nobody came because you had targeted,
Yes.
you had invited women with children.
With children.
And you said that there was, unbeknownst to you, they had a safe place to go.
Right.
Well, at least a place where they didn't have to keep moving their children around every night. Some place that was, a lot of them in cars, of course, which is not a really wonderful environment to raise children, of course. But at least it was some place that they knew they could be safe. And so they didn't want to uproot the children. That's the story we got from the Homeless Service Center. That's what they
Okay.
told us.
And tell me, what does AFC stand for again?
Association of Faith Communities.
Okay, and this is a coalition of, what is this organization?
Well, it just sprung up from this forum that Father Joel, initiated back in 2010. And these are people that just wanted to do something, even if a lot of times their churches are not participating per se, although we do have 3 more churches that are very close, we hope, to getting their communities, their parishes organized. And, they're watching what happens with us, how we operate, what we do. We've had a tremendous success as far as, certainly we had reservations, some people more than others, but it has proven to be just absolutely model. The guests are well behaved, they clean up beautifully, they arrive when they're supposed to, they leave when they're supposed to, because you can't just have people walking in and out of your church and your parish hall doing whatever. And I think that's been the experience talking with these
To
gentlemen.
fill in there, AFC is really an ad hoc coordinating committee comprised of laity and clergy representing a number of Santa Cruz area churches.
And other organizations.
And other organizations, but mostly churches. And we meet monthly, and we collaborate and coordinate our various congregations' outreach efforts, in an attempt to work with the public and private agencies that are also addressing the needs of poor and homeless people.
Okay, and your experience at your church, as Chris described and Paul described, the population that you do serve, how is that?
It's pretty much the same people. I personally go to Calvary Episcopal Church on Monday nights, which is the night that Calvary is hosting guests. And I have conversations with them all, get to know them all, invite them to come to my church on the next Sunday night. And then on that Sunday evening, I and a volunteer or 2 from my church will show up at Calvary downtown with cars to transport people up to my church, which is a couple of miles away. And the group varies from week to week, but it's pretty much the same group from night to night. So the group who is staying at my church tonight, most of them will probably be at Steve's church tomorrow night. And then at Paul's church the night after that.
Okay, so you're seeing, the same.
So it's consolidated into a group that becomes kind of a family in among themselves, and that helps, doesn't it? Makes
Yeah.
a big
Well, that was
difference.
the hope, and it seems to
And
proven to be true.
We've
yeah.
learned that people on the street take care of one another. They care about each other, and they're taking care of each other as best they can.
Let me bring you in, Steve DeFields Gambrell, and you are with Circle Church. Is that the church in the circles over on the west side?
Yes, it is.
It is.
Yeah, used to be called Garfield Park Christian Church.
Okay, all right. So the name has changed.
Yes, and I'm the pastor there.
Okay, all right, great. Well, again, welcome to the show. So, were you involved with this AFC organizing meeting? And
Yeah.
so you've been in there from the beginning.
Back in the beginning in 2010, and even before that, we had our own ministries, a variety of ministries to homeless folks for several years before that even. So we were already, involved, and as I like to say, up to our armpits in the issues of the poor and the homeless and the marginalized. And so it was a natural fit for us to join this association and have colleagues and work together and brainstorm together. And so we did. And then we had thought that we would be right at the first of this satellite program, but we just didn't have the volunteers initially. But about a month ago, we came online on Tuesday nights. Mm-hmm. And it's been seamless. It's been absolutely seamless. It's probably the easiest and most smoothest ministry offering I've ever done in 14 years of ministry.
Wow. Someone's smiling on you, sounds like.
Well, and who's smiling on us in part is a couple of folks, Ian and Satori, who night after night during these 4 nights sort of supervises the program, and they've just organized it very well and made it almost painless for the churches to participate.
I see. Well, let's give him credit. Ian Mackay, you're speaking of?
Yes, I am.
And he's with your church,
Calvary.
yes? He's with Calvary Episcopal. I did meet him at a fundraiser for this, I think it was for the Monday night meal program, which is the same. I don't know if you were doing the sleeping at that time. This was several months, maybe a year ago.
No, we weren't. We didn't start. This didn't start until
it was the Monday night meal.
Right. Well, that's been going on for about, what, 4 or 5 years?
And it's
quite a while.
so this expanded into this program. So Ian Mackay, and the other name you mentioned?
Satori, who is sort of Ian's assistant, and between the two of them, they come and they bring mats for the folks to sleep on, and they organize everything and supervise everything. And their continuity from night to night to night really helps that whole family as a family kind of coalesce together and look out for each other.
I would say it's their balanced judgment. On the one hand, they have a real sense of what people need and they want to help people. And on the other hand, they know where to draw limits and they're very careful. And it's really remarkable to watch the two of them function this way. They're both very, very good.
Great. We did invite Ian to appear tonight. He was not able to be here on this show, but I just wanted to get...
Both he and Satori are acting as monitors right now at my church with the group of homeless.
There it is. That's
why you couldn't come.
Wanted to make sure they got some recognition here. Okay, so the population you're serving, if it's not, are you getting women with children at all, or is it mainly men?
I don't really like to come up with a statistic, but we've had several women with children or families with children. And the other group that surprised me was how many of the folks, not all, but probably at least half or 2/3 on some nights of the folks that we've had are in some way or another hobbled. They're either they got a broken leg and they're walking with a crutch right now, or they've got canes, they've got some physical disabilities that make it very, very difficult for them to move around. And you can imagine what it's like with those kind of bone and joint issues to try to sleep on a cold ground. So the people we're helping really need the help.
The group at our church tonight is 15 people, 4 of whom are women, and 3 of whom are little girls. So there's a mom with 3 little girls, and 2 other women, and the rest are men.
So 15, and is that a usual number for all the?
That's more than we've had any night, I think. We've had maybe 13.
Yeah, we set 10 as the limit at our
I think
church.
that's more than we actually have mats for, isn't it?
We don't have that.
Yeah, we don't have mats for all of
And
them.
we usually have a mat for everyone, a pretty good thick padded mat.
Are you having to move these, you said, from
Ian,
place to place?
They move from one church to the other, and Ian and Satori do all that work.
So this is a logistical challenge, obviously. How
It is.
about volunteers? Are you replete with volunteers, or can you use more use more help?
Can always use more help.
Okay.
We've been pretty lucky at Cavalry. We had, of course, summertime is people are on vacation and they're doing their summertime thing. So it's a little lean, but as I say, we've kind of settled into this routine. We have a sexton at our church who, her nickname is Spook, and she herself was a homeless person up until a few years ago. Now she is employed by Cavalry as our sexton. And she's also there on Monday nights and stays on Monday. So she gives them breakfast. And we know from Second Harvest, we got permission from Second Harvest. We get our food there for our Monday nights, so we get a little extra here, and we have food donated throughout the community, so we get a little extra here, a little extra there, and package up bags, little bags for them to take. And she pretty much has taken over that chore.
So financially, are the churches, you're spending money on this program?
Not much.
Not much?
Not very much. We had a donor. Is it okay to mention his name on the air?
Of course.
Paul Lee. He's well known in the community
Yes.
for his help to the homeless. He's a member of Cavalry and is very active, as you probably know, with the homeless concerns. And Paul donated the mats. I think they also bought pillows. And they're all, plastic that can be disinfected after they're done. And the pillows travel with the mats too. And so Paul donated that. We need more, of course, as the program grows, which because of its success, I presume, I hope, that it will continue to grow. And, depending on the limitations of the structures, really. But we've been fairly lucky with I expect in the fall when people come home, we'll have more if we need them.
So here, you started, I'm sorry, the initial meeting was in February, is that what I heard?
The first meeting, the forum, that was I think it was November of 2010.
Oh, 2010.
2010. That was
Okay.
when Father Joel invited all these agencies and churches and what have you to come and talk, and the AFC grew out of that meeting.
I think the
And
AFC
then-
probably started about this time last year, didn't it?
That sounds about right.
As a monthly planning brainstorming group with regularity. I think it started about this time last year.
Yeah, and this current shelter project began 3 months ago with your church, Calvary. And then the others of us joined in soon afterward.
Yeah.
It has served a tremendous need in the community to do some organizing, because you've got a lot of goodwill in this community, but it needs to be brought, it helps a lot if we can all work together. And that's what's happening. And it's thanks to the leadership of your pastor. He's been wonderful.
It sounds like a beautiful example of people getting together and with not a lot of resources, doing some really valuable work. So my hat is off to you and everyone in the program. It sounds great. How much? So 4 churches. Does that mean that there are 4 nights that housing is available in these churches? Shelter. Okay, and the other 3 nights
Not yet.
currently nothing. Okay, but you are in discussion with other churches.
Oh, yes,
About trying
definitely.
to enlist them.
Father
Okay.
Joel says that, of course, he won't mention, and I wouldn't even if I knew, that he feels that they are seriously considering it. But it's a
Okay.
question of organizing their parishes and informing their parish and looking at our programs and, just sharing our experiences to see how.
It's not a trivial matter for any church
No, it
to
isn't.
do
It
this,
isn't.
because you have property, you have legal liabilities, and all kind of things to think about.
Yeah, yeah.
And we sort of have to
Well,
feel
and
your
as we
way.
all know, a lot of people are really afraid of homeless people. They, for whatever reason. And it's a big thing to open up basically your home of worship to people that you maybe don't completely trust yet until you get to know them.
So within the congregation, then, is there, if I can approach this delicate subject here, what has been the response of your various congregations to this program?
Well, in my congregation, this particular ministry has been like a lightning bolt. The response, the volunteer response that we've had has been amazing. We have something like 30 volunteers signed up over a 6-month schedule to prepare meals, bring in meals, clean up meals, spend time with our guests in the sleeping hall, provide rides from downtown up to our church, give people takeaway breakfasts in the morning when they leave. And this group of people engaged in this ministry has been developing a cohesiveness and a sense of mission, which we find just tremendously edifying for our congregation. It shows us what we've been telling each other, which is that the center of the Christian tradition is not a fixed set of beliefs. It's not a creed that we swear to. It's a way of living. And that way of living is to follow Jesus in serving our neighbors. And so it's been a really important part of our congregational growth.
Well, I can't say that we're as well organized as you are, Jim, but it's growing, and I have not heard a word of dissent. But it's not surprising to me. Our church has a tradition of openness and of wanting to do this kind of thing. It's, you know, I was thinking, well, you could say it's Christianity. It's actually humanity 101. I mean, this is fundamental stuff. This is what you need to do. People understand that.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it's good. We all learn, right?
Yeah. Well, we made sure as a vestry that we had a tremendous amount, and we promised ourselves we were not going to rush. Although we were under the gun because we knew that the armory would be closing. It was winter, it was cold and rainy, and we wanted to get the doors open as soon as possible. But at the same time, we wanted to make sure that the entire parish was well educated. So we had emails going out. It was in our monthly newsletter. We had forums every Sunday, which we do every Sunday anyway, with different topics, but we had several. So people could come and voice their concerns and find out exactly what the parameters of the program were going to be. And I think it was worth it because I have not heard anyone, as I say, the program's running so smoothly that no one has anything that they could worry about. But it was important to us that the parish be very, very well informed before we even started.
And your volunteers probably, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on your name.
Me?
Yes. Okay, thank you. Is like Jim's experience, the volunteers that are involved are very committed, sounds like. Has there been any, I know you've all said this is not something we entered into lightly, and we wanted to make sure that we were well prepared before we opened our home, basically, our second home to strangers. And what, internally in the church, Paul said he has seen no dissent. Has that been the experience at
I have
Calvary?
not heard anything. As I say, being on the vestry, everything has to go through us. If there is a problem, it has to be discussed. And we did, I think it was not last month, but the month before, we voted unanimously to continue the program.
Okay.
So I'm sure had there been any inkling from any corner of the parish, it would have entered into that discussion.
Sure.
And it didn't.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we didn't have any problems. Of course, we've been all for 6 or 7 years very involved. We have done this kind of thing sporadically on a case-by-case basis where we knew someone and they really needed a few days of shelter. They've slept in the sanctuary or somewhere. On really rainy, stormy nights, I've had 50, 60 people in our fellowship hall to get them out of the storms, out of the lightning before a tree fell on them or something. We've done that on stormy nights more than once. So this was kind of a no-brainer for us. They ask the appropriate questions because we have been around the block enough to know that there are some folks that are not safe to leave and to invite into your sanctuary, But from the beginning, the idea was, of course, we want to participate with this. Our problem is that we're a small group and largely elderly or already exhausted by the zillions of hours of volunteering they already do for the homeless, cooking and caring and providing showers and other things. And so we were not able to find the volunteers very quickly. But the intent and the open-mindedness and the open heart to want to do this was always there.
Let's, we have another video prepared, so I'm going to run that now. And this is from USA Today. It's 3 years old. But, I'm using these older videos because really the problem hasn't really changed. But this video in particular is from USA Today. I think I said that. It's from 2009. It describes or it shows us a homeless city in St. Petersburg, Florida. And St. Petersburg, instead of, their way of dealing with the problem was to actually create a place for homeless people to be. And with the help of Catholic Charities, another faith-based group, who provided funding, they have actually built very rudimentary but shelters, permanent shelters for people who have lost their housing. So it's called the New Homeless, and let's take a look at that right now, please.
I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. I was doing well as a union carpenter. There was plenty of work. I had a car, and then the economy just seemed to let go.
I was making about 50 grand a year up in the Detroit area in the auto industry. I had my own house, my own car, bank account. It's hard to fathom what's become of me at this point.
I can't find work. I've made Caesar salads tableside, carved Chateaubriand. I can't get a job at Taco Bell.
David, Jim, and Kevin never expected to become homeless, but they found themselves in a tent city called Pinellas Hope, which is outside of St. Petersburg, Florida. Unlike longtime street residents who often suffer from mental illness or substance abuse, many of these newly homeless people have the economy to blame.
We're getting more and more single moms with babies. We're seeing families where there were 2 workers losing their jobs. I do think the population is changing. We're trying to assist those that are most in need and most ready to move on.
We were having folks just putting up tents just on the sidewalk of our city streets. We'd rather have it in a contained area where there is structure, there is somebody to watch over, there is help out here, than just having individuals, at whim put tents up.
It's not so bad right now, but I can only imagine in the summertime in Florida, when it gets into the 90s and 100s, trying to sleep in a tent at night with the heat and the bugs and the mosquitoes and the snakes and the armadillos and
accelerated. And okay, we're back. So this was, that video was from USA Today. Again, it was from 2009. A homeless city that the city of St. Petersburg, Florida has set up. As you saw, the tents, many of them were the same. So those were donated from a single source or paid for and obtained from a single source. And then Catholic Charities provided funds to build shelter, shelters out of wood. So that's how they've dealt with it. And also we heard about how these guys, a couple of them said, I'm 48 or 50 years old, I can't recall, and I had a real job, and all of a sudden I lost my job, and I never thought this would happen, but here I am living in a tent, and I can't believe this has happened to me. So that was 2008. It was 2009, rather, the year following the giant financial calamity that was the worldwide financial crisis. Thank you to the banks and for destroying our economy. That's my editorializing. So, but the film is about the new homeless, and I know that your program has not been around that long, but we have seen spikes in numbers all over the country.
Well, we've been working with homeless folks on the Lower West Side for 6 or 7 years before the economic crash. And for most of those years, it was the same 30, 40, maybe 50 people. Some of them had been in that neighborhood living homeless for 10, 20 years. And it was very stable. They all knew each other, they watched out for each other, they took care of each other, and we knew them. And they knew us, and we worked very well together. The last 2 years, it's a whole different world. I see far more people whose names I don't know than people whose names I do know, and that's very, very recent. The last, I'd say, year and a half, we started seeing so many new faces that it's just amazing.
And do you have any idea, are these local people, or have they come here from elsewhere?
I'd say 3/4 of the homeless people I've met for the entire 6 or 7 years are local. They didn't come here from anywhere. Some of them came back to Santa Cruz recently after having gone somewhere else, and in one case got a job and then lost the job and ended up homeless in the snow, said, I'm going to Santa Cruz. It's not snowing there. And I know people there, and they'll take care of me there. And so, but mostly, all this time that I've worked with the homeless, it's largely been people that were born and raised in Santa Cruz County. One of the first homeless women I met has never in her life been out of Santa Cruz County, and she's been homeless for 25 years. She would love to visit someplace else just to see what the rest of the world looks like, but you can't.
Anyone else want to comment on? Okay. The numbers, the new numbers. Neighbors. In the video, we saw a couple who were housed. They had a house, they had a nice house, and they had a lake, and I imagine they might have a boat even. I don't know. They looked like they were doing very well, and they were expressing their concern that they did not want homeless people in their neighborhood. What has been your experience at your churches with the neighbors of your church? Who would like to begin?
Well, in our case, we're in a location where we have no close neighbors. It's a residential neighborhood, but our church campus is separated by a distance of 100 yards from the nearest home. So we haven't had any neighbor problem at all. We do have a preschool that uses the building where we house the homeless on Sunday nights. So we need to make sure we're all cleaned up and everybody's gone by 7 a.m. Monday morning in order for that to work. And the preschool director works directly with us and the monitors of the Sunday night shelter program. So for us, there isn't any real neighborhood problem, although we're well aware of the issues that abound in downtown Santa Cruz.
I'd say in our case, we haven't heard any complaints. I think it's a matter of being discreet so that you don't have people, all over the place. And I think, again, I attribute the success of the program from our point of view primarily to the way Ian and Satori have handled it. They try to be careful, and they try to tell people to be careful, and I think people respond. So far we've not had that.
You've not, and I just want to remind people, you're with Trinity Presbyterian.
Trinity, and we're over on the east side.
Right.
We're downtown, you're on the west side. We're all in different places. We're the only ones on the east side. And there are homes right there, and there's a middle school, kitty corner across, and so forth. So it could be an issue. We also have the preschool, and that has always been an issue. It was an issue way back when we were sheltering the men in the earlier program. And we just had to work it out so that they minimize the interference. These are the problems you have. I mean, they're practical problems. You just have to deal with them.
Well, our location, as everybody and probably the entire world is aware, the Little Red Church downtown with the only green space and trees for relief in the summertime. We've had our share of problems. We've had complaints from some neighbors. I think, and I will contribute Father Joel with the organization, our Monday night coffee house dinner that we do, and of course the shelter program too. And I think it's the organization, and his philosophy always was, we want people to own these programs. This is your program. Everyone who comes through those doors is treated with dignity and a smile. I mean, there's no judgment here. This is where you come. If you want to eat, if you want to sleep, but you obey our rules. We will not be treated without respect. And because I think this has started, we have not had a complaint, to my knowledge, in a long time. In fact, I think one of the nicest compliments we got was from a woman who's on our preschool board also. And she said, these last 6 months, last year, dates kind of elude me. She said, the woman who runs the preschool, she said, we're fine. We are completely fine, because I think it's so well organized now. And people are aware, if you're we're a downtown church, there are going to be people sleeping on our porch. Unless we have a person who's walking the grounds, we have security people, but they can't be everywhere all the time. But I think it's really because it's become, this is their little place to go.
Well, anytime you start something new that you've not been doing before, there are going to be, some growing pains. And when we started out 6 or 7 years ago, not so much sheltering people, but just being involved, allowing homeless people, inviting homeless people to be on our campus. And they did a lot of volunteer work, and it was a mutual relationship. But neighbors were very upset for a couple of 3 years there, so upset and so concerned that we were bringing crime into the neighborhood that I went to the police website and did the crime mapping and analyzed the last 3 years, the first 3 years that we were involved in the homeless, and found that crime had dropped in the immediate neighborhood around the church, in some cases by 50%. Although the feeling of many neighbors, because they saw so many homeless people visible, was that crime must be up, but it wasn't. With this satellite program, it has been so smooth and, as you say, so nicely organized. The folks that are there are so carefully screened and are just the right people that need this the most and are going to respond to it most graciously, that it's been absolutely painless for the neighborhood, as well as I think for us at the church and for everyone.
What contact do you have with your neighbors? Do they come and speak with you? Do you do outreach? Do you go and invite them to come to the church and discuss their concerns? Or?
I go to a lot of neighborhood watch meetings, and my email and my office door is always open. I have 2 or 3 neighbors that when they see things going on that concern them, I say, come talk to me. I'll tell you exactly what it is. I want to be transparent and open. Like Jim, we feel we have a gospel, a founder who was homeless, who said something about taking the homeless in, and to people that didn't shelter the homeless, he said, go away from me, I never knew you. So we feel like we don't have an option, but we want to be transparent and we want to be open and we want to be sure it's safe for everybody, and so my door is open. The truth is I probably have 2 neighbors who tell me they love what we're doing at the church for every one neighbor that doesn't like it, but the ones that don't like it can be very vocal and be very angry about it.
Has any of your churches recruited volunteers from the community that are not members of your congregation?
2/3 or 3/4 of the folks that are cooking on Tuesday nights are not members of the community. And actually, we have people cooking on Sundays for the homeless as well. And half the folks on Sunday morning that are in the kitchen cooking are not members of our church at all. It's got to where I don't even know who's a member anymore. It's just one big family.
It's kind of a nice thing, I imagine.
It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. Well, it's a beautiful idea, and congratulations again, and thank you for doing this. So what are besides the obvious benefits of giving someone a roof over their head at night and some security, safety from whatever, all the dangers there are with sleeping outdoors in an urban environment, what are the other benefits, do you think, of providing a sleeping place, a safe place for people to sleep? Anybody? What have you heard? What have the people that you serve, what have they told you?
It's probably kept some people out of the hospital, which would be very expensive for the whole community because that's going to come out of tax money. They have no insurance. And it's given some people some hope. They were maybe on the verge of desperate despair. The other thing that I've seen in general with this kind of ministry is that when I came to Santa Cruz to pastor this church 9 years ago, every morning the parking lot was littered with broken bottles, needles. There was a lot of graffiti, broken windows. When we get to know people and they get to know us, we can encourage a mutual respect. And the folks that we serve, like you say, they own the church. It's their church. It's their home too. They take care of it. And they informally police the folks that would disrespect our property now. So we rarely have those kind of problems with graffiti or littering these days.
What Steve is saying about our founder, we feel that his mission was to bring the marginal people into society. And if you read the Gospels, that becomes very clear. And this is the same thing. These folk are marginal, and they don't very often have a chance to participate in any society. So what we have here is a case where even among themselves, being in a safe place, sitting at table with other people, you have community. And it's really a marvelous thing to have happen. So that's one part. The other part is that those of us who live in a relatively favorable, very much more favorable type of life, experience an ability to reach into the part of our society that isn't so favorable, and it's something we desperately need to understand and do. So it works in both directions. It's not a one-way street. There's never a one-way street in these things. I feel every time I go down there, I learn something. I mean, you just always are learning. A while back in another program that we were involved with, all of us, I think, we were looking at the life of the German Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who was an amazing Christian pastor. And he wrote a little book, I'm sure you guys know it, I imagine you do. It was called Life Together, you know that book? And it was about, actually it was a Christian community that he at that time was head of. It was a community, almost like a monastery.
Semi-monastic.
Yeah, semi-monastic. But in the book, he writes about the meaning of Christian fellowship. And it always is so striking when you read that, because he said, the strong need the weak, and the weak need the strong. And always you don't know who's weak and who's strong in some of these situations. But there is this interaction, and that, from my point of view, and I think many of us feel that, is so fundamental. That we're building community. We're building life in the community, and that's what we...
And I would hope that the church is the place where these labels that we almost can't help but use around a table like this actually disappear on the property of the church. We don't have homeless people and church people. We're just one family. I think it's very, very important. Someone once said, don't do ministry to the homeless, do ministry with the homeless. So that it's just one family together. And you know, the friendships I have with people, some of whom happen not to have a house to sleep in at night, are lifelong, and they're deep bonds. And the joy that I've experienced playing music with them, or just talking and being honored to hear their stories, once in a while to hear the real story, is amazing.
When we take seriously our calling to love our neighbors as ourselves, we find that everybody is changed in the process, because we're all connected in a web of relationships. And when a person who has been suffering and deprived experiences love from a neighbor, that person has changed, and that person goes into the world the next morning with a different mind and a different heart. And that changes the people with whom he or she comes into relationship. Yeah.
Okay. I was going to ask why you personally participated in this program, but I think you've really spoken to that already, all of you. Can I know? I would like to do this announcement. Can I know how much time we have left?
5 minutes.
5? Okay. I think I'm going to end this right here. I do have an announcement that we had planned to do earlier, and technical problems got in my way. But I want to thank you all for coming and talking about this. And so, of course, you're always looking for volunteers, I imagine.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Donations would be gratefully accepted. Certainly. So, thank you all for coming. Steve Gambrell from Circle Church, and Chris Perrin from the Red Church, Calvary Episcopal, Paul Seaver from the Trinity Presbyterian, and Jim Weller of the High Street Congregational Church. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have an announcement, an announcement of an event that I was just learned about, and I wanted to share with my audience tonight. We'll have a speaker tomorrow night. So today is the 22nd of July. That'll be the 23rd. So let's put her image up here. Medea Benjamin, the world-renowned activist, will be speaking tonight in Santa Cruz. She'll be at Bookshop Santa Cruz, speaking about her new book, Drone Warfare, Killing by Remote Control, and the use of pilotless airplanes, unmanned aerial vehicles, as they're technically called, has just exploded in the last couple of years. The Bush administration used them quite a bit. Obama has used them more, much more, and they're used to target, suspected insurgents, suspected militants in particularly in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, and in Yemen. And the results, the consequences of this have just been devastating. Many civilians have been killed in these attacks, and it is not doing anybody any good. We intended to have Medea phone into the show tonight. We had some technical problems, so that's why I'm giving you the information myself. So you can hear Medea speak tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m. at the Bookshop Santa Cruz here on Pacific Avenue in Santa Cruz, and she'll be speaking about the book she has just completed, again, Drone Warfare, Killing by Remote Control. I can't recommend her highly enough. I've had the pleasure of knowing Medea for many years and working with her, and she deserves her reputation as a world, someone who puts herself in harm's way sometimes, actually, and has been arrested countless times for getting for speaking truth to power on a television camera. So that's so check her out on. You can go to codepink.org. She's one of the co-founders of Code Pink. She's also one of the co-founders of Global Exchange, and that again is globalexchange.org. And you can learn more about her work there and what she has done. So again, there's the book title, and you can see her again tomorrow night at Bookshop Santa Cruz. Thank you for joining us tonight. I just want to put in a plea here to community television, for community television. This is our television. There are no sponsors here. Well, there are, but it's not like giant corporations are throwing money at us. This is done by the community for the community, and it is a really important resource. Many communities don't have this, so we should be very grateful. Consider becoming a member of community television. Consider joining community television. Come on down and take a class and learn how to operate a camera or do whatever else jobs. There are many jobs here that need to be done, which leads me to thanking the all-volunteer crew here on Voices from the Village. All of the shows at community television are produced by volunteers, and we need to, of course, we need more. And as we learned from our guests tonight, it is the volunteers, the community that makes everything happen. Our producer on this show is Charlie Phillips, many years producing Voices from the Village. And our director tonight is Ken Nobler. We have camera people. I don't even know all the camera people's names. We have so many here. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we do. Yes, I do. Annie Newman and Betsy Phillips. Again, thanks for watching tonight, and we'll see you next time on Voices from the Village. Thanks for joining us.
That's a shame.
Oh, good evening and welcome to Voices from the Village. My name is Louis LaFortune. I'm going to be hosting tonight along with Steve Plach, who's sitting across from me, and Sandino Gomez. And I was a host for many years, and then as I slowly backed off the show, and Steve and Sandino came in and took over those duties and are doing a wonderful job. But tonight we'll all three be doing this hosting tonight. Tonight, our show is a remembrance celebration of the life of Charlie Phillips, the creator of Voices from the Village and executive producer, long time. And this show has been, in some form or other, on the air here on community television since 1999, I believe, was the first year.
16 years, yeah.
16 years. So, and of course, it's a memorial also because Charlie, unfortunately, passed away this July 4th, and we miss him dearly. We hope that you saw an obit in the paper about him, and we're going to talk about Charlie. That's what this show is about. It is a remembrance and a sort of a love letter to Charlie Phillips, whom we all really loved. Our main guest tonight, our major guest, is Betsy Phillips, and Betsy Phillips is Charlie's widow. And she is here on my right, and thank you so much for being here tonight, Betsy.
Thank you, Louis.
So yeah, why don't we just start out and you just talk about Charlie?
Well, first thing I want to say is thank you, Louis and Steve and Sandino and Joe Grossman, all the people who have been hosts. There's been many of them. Thank you to the crew, John Maurer, Gail Williamson, Annie Newman, Ken Nobler in the control room, David Goldman back there, Brian Schulman, everyone who has worked with Charlie for so many years and supported him. Thank you to everyone who came out to his memorial service. I was overwhelmed by all the love and support, and I'm so glad that Charlie's spirit is still so strong in this community. I'd like for one of the cameras to get a picture of, get a close-up on a picture of Charlie's dad. And you can see where Charlie got his good looks. This is a picture of his dad, who was an engineer and helped to construct, was in charge of constructing what was then the largest land dam in the world at that time, and helped to save the Mississippi Delta. As good looking as he was, Charlie's mother was even more beautiful, and she was the soloist in every Episcopal church in Vicksburg, Mississippi. Charlie was very beautiful, beautiful in spirit, beautiful in his love for humanity. I was very happy to be found by Charlie Phillips, even though I didn't realize it at the time, and tried to get away from Charlie, but there's no getting away from Charlie, and everybody knows that. And he was really devoted to Voices from the Village, to community TV, and to the community as a whole. And I'm so glad that everyone came tonight to help celebrate Charlie's life.
Well, thanks. Thank you. Let me just ask the booth, the control room, to put up those photos. We have a photo, I think it's number 7, of Charlie's parents. If you could put that on screen.
Oh, there it is.
And
no, that's
then,
Charlie and his mother.
Charlie and his mother. Oh, Charlie and his parents. Okay. And then we have another one, number 8, of... I've been told, there it is.
Hey, look at that.
So here you are dancing with Charlie.
Mm-hmm. That was about, maybe 3 years ago at a friend's 90th birthday party.
Uh-huh. And next, number 9. And there it is.
Yeah, wow. That was while we were dancing at our wedding, and Tom Conant took that photo.
And
you were married in 1999?
We were married in 1999. Voices from the Village started in January 1998, so I met Charlie about 9 months into the show. I had
Is that
no
right?
idea he kept it such a secret. Yes.
So when you were married, you didn't know that he was a producer?
I knew that he did a show, you know, but I thought it was just Thursday afternoon sort of thing. I didn't know it was 24/7. I found that out after the wedding.
The double laugh for Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie.
Yeah, well, as you said, he did that all, it was his,
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
the most important thing in his life. I'm next to you, of course.
Yep.
But yeah, he was so dedicated to this idea of citizen journalism, which I think we call it today.
Yeah.
And just passionately believed that by informing the public that we could change the world. And I know that's why I joined this show, because I believe that also, and I'm sure you gentlemen.
Absolutely.
I couldn't agree more that Charlie was always willing to, he always had his own topics and his own causes, but I always appreciated that he would hear out any ideas that I had for shows and guests I had. And it was so great to feel like, even though he was the producer and it was definitely his show, it was always easy to work with him and to make a show that I wanted to make happen. Like, that was a wonderful thing,
And for me, Charlie always seemed to be very much on top of the topic of the day. He
Yeah.
was current. He wasn't
Yeah.
saying, well, let's do a show on something that happened 5 years ago or the movement of this or that and anything. He'd say, hey, we need to do a show about this because a proposition just passed in California, or this issue is really hot in town. We need to get some guests and that kind of thing. So I was always very grateful for the opportunity to kind of articulate and flesh out some of those ideas because they were what the community was talking about right at that time. So it made voices, so vibrant, and really the signature, live program in CTV and here in Santa Cruz County.
All right, yeah, it was always current, not 5 years ago, not 5 months
No.
ago, 5 days ago.
Exactly
That's
right,
what the
yeah.
show
Yeah.
was about. It was
Yeah.
about what was happening right now, or about to happen. Let's go back to those days, those storied days of
Those thrilling days of yesteryear.
You remember the Lone Ranger
Yes, I'm just thinking about
lead
that.
in? We have a clip. We have a clip from a very early show number 8.
Wow.
And this was in 19. Wait, let's do this first. First, we have maybe this is the one. Okay, that's a 90. Let me start over again. This is a 1998 show here in the studio, hosted by Joe Grossman, who was the host at that time. Charlie's in this shot, and also Valerie Corral of Wham. And Charlie, by the way, was a member of Wham and a longtime supporter of that, the Women's Alliance for Medical Marijuana here in Santa Cruz, which is probably known to these viewers. So here's the show. We just want to show you this so you can see Charlie in action on the show. This is clip number 5.
Good.
Oh yeah, we got the whole village behind us here.
That's beautiful.
Barely got me. Charlie called this morning.
It actually looks great. Yeah, is this live?
Yes, this is live. Call
No, this
in.
is the bars. It's a rolling.
You
Don't
might
worry,
get
it's a rolling.
a mysterious call from San Francisco.
But I mean, is it going to be aired later on?
Yeah, it'll be aired. It'll be aired.
Hey, baby,
It'll
what
be
are you
aired.
doing?
Yeah, people will try
It's being aired right now.
Aired and it'll be shown again, of
Oh,
course.
good. Okay. Oh, okay.
We hopefully will.
Thank you for joining us here at Voices from the Village. Here, and my co-host, without whom I would not be here today, Charlie Phillip. Glad to have you here today. Why don't we start off very directly with the issue of what is happening legally.
All we're here and to educate the public. That's what we need, education.
That's what we do.
You know,
We always hear this, education, not prisons.
after facing, I think that a lot of people feel that after facing death and illness, that the federal government isn't such a formidable adversary.
Thank you very much, Valerie Corral, and everyone, Sylvan Knight, Kate Wells, Andrea Tischler,
Thank you.
co-host Charlie Phillips, for joining us here at Voices from the Village, and we look forward to seeing our viewers again. Thank you.
So Voices from the Village, back in the day, 1998, show number 8 with Joe Grossman, the original host, and Charlie Phillips. You saw him with his very stylish hairdo. And, and I recognized Valerie Corral from Wham, and Andrea, and I don't remember her last name, but she ran the marijuana safe house hotel thingy.
Compassion Flower in Bed, Bud, and Breakfast. Yeah.
Well, I recognize that coat. Charlie was a fashion plate back then, and he was. I just to share a little story. When I started doing voices, Charlie would always give me fashion advice when I came in, because I'd be wearing something that completely clashed with the studio colors or completely blended out or in. So he'd say, you have to wear something that's going to be this and that. So I'd always bring 3 or 4 different things so I could make sure that Charlie was satisfied with what I was, their production value, to make it right, and that even that kind of attention to detail is what made it so much fun to be around Charlie and to be around the show.
Well, Charlie had a history here with television production, but I know he also produced TV in Boulder, right, Colorado?
He worked for Channel 12 in Boulder, Colorado. I believe he worked as a cameraman there. I don't know a lot about what he did. That was before I knew him.
Okay. And, and I remember him telling me that he had actually done, professional, he's paid to do that work. And so, when he came in and when he talked about television production, I could tell it was coming from a place of real knowledge, that he had done this, professionally. So it was a pleasure to listen to him, and he would explain things like that that shirt doesn't work.
That's right.
You better put a jacket on over it, because we can't have all that.
Or even cues about how to speak so it broadcasts through the microphone properly, or just things like that I wouldn't have thought about, having not done any television before. I was fortunate enough to come on board and be a host with the rest of you. But he would always understand that and then explain it to you. So he was coming from a position of thorough knowledge of how the production values work. So producer and just not name only.
And happy to teach what he knew. That was a real gift.
Absolutely.
That was a gift.
He was also very proud of the fact that he took part in film festivals there, and that he walked Gerard Depardieu to the stage.
Is that right?
And that he smoked a joint with Ted Kesey.
All right, well, there you go. That's more than I can say.
Not surprised.
It's a claim to fame.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's both of you are so right. I mean, the way, coming in to help first sub for Uncle Louie and then kind of taking over as he transitioned outwards, I mean, it was just wonderful to have someone that was so easy to work with, and Steve said, was really there every step of the way to just, I think, really help empower me as a host and make me feel comfortable in the role and more thinking like a producer or someone that could help guide or create a whole show in and of itself, I'm not just a pretty face. I started to think about these things.
There's more to it than just turn the camera
and I got
on
to
you
do
and
some
make
really
the
good
magic happen.
topics that I really cared about. And what was wonderful was Charlie cared about him too. So, we would be talking about everything, and he would always support those kind of social justice causes that I was really into and that would attract me to the show in the first place. Because I was definitely kind of checking out what Uncle Louie did before that happened.
Oh, we got a call.
Looks like we do have a phone call here, folks. So why don't I just hit the answer button and see what happens? Hey, this is community television, Voices from the Village. You're live on the air.
Okay, this is Joe Morin over in Biloxi, Mississippi.
Hey, Joe.
And I'm calling about Charlie Phillips. He's my best friend.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you so much for calling, Joe. We're here with Betsy Phillips. My name is Sandino Gomez, and I have two fellow co-hosts here. We're all kind of members of the team producing the Voices from the Village show, Steve Pleich and Louis LaFortune. So
Hey, Joe.
you're here with the four of us. We can all hear you. They can say hi.
Hey, how are you, Joe?
Yeah. Hey, okay. Well, where is Ken there too? I think I talked to Ken one time about a year ago.
He's in the control room.
We got Ken in the control room making all the magic happen, along with Brian. Absolutely.
Oh, he's a musician in the crowd.
Yeah, he is.
Yep. Yep.
Well, you know, Charlie was a musician too. He could do a lot. He was a master of a lot of things, and I knew Charlie over 50 years. We went to college together, University of Southern Mississippi.
Oh wow.
And, I used to visit him, and I met his mother back in Vicksburg, where he was from, in Vicksburg. And I'm from Jackson, Mississippi, but I live on the Mississippi coast, on the Gulf Coast now, down at the Riviera of the South.
I'll be damned, yeah.
Wow. What years was that? I'm just curious. Like, when did you go to college with Charlie?
University of Southern Mississippi at Hattiesburg, where we went to school. And of course, Charlie and I palled around in Jackson for many years, and he set up a lot of stuff. I've been in the insurance business all those years. I ran an insurance agency and owned it, and full lines insurance agency. But Charlie had a securities license. He sold securities and all that stuff. And of course, we hung around the bars and everything. And I played music on the side. He set me up with a lot of musical jobs. You may have heard of Silkies. That was kind of something they tried back in the late 60s and early 70s.
Silkies?
Kind of like Shakey's. Silkies was the name of it. I think they came out of St. Louis or somewhere. You know, they set up a bar, you come in and sing and buy sandwiches and whatever you want, you know, and then they came up with Shakey's Pizza Parlor after that. So we just kind of, and I played music at all these places, and Charlie was kind of he was kind of an organizer.
Even then, huh? Yeah.
Hi, Joe. It's
listen,
whoops.
Charlie set me up with a lot of to sell insurance. You know, I'd meet people and I'd sell them car insurance or life insurance or I'd write boat insurance. Charlie, listen, he was a promoter now, and y'all know that well because he did a lot for Voices of the Village. He did a lot for y'all too, I'm sure.
No question.
a little bit.
Absolutely.
Hi, Joe. It's Ken. I think we spoke a couple of times, once before or twice before. Yeah.
Yes, I talked to you because I came over and spent 2 or 3 days with Charlie and Betsy several years ago, and then they came down here, and when they got married, they came down here on the. I had a beach house down here at Ocean Springs, and they came down for a few days, and we had a big party. That was it must have been 2003 or maybe 2001. I forgot exactly when it was. Time flies; it gets away.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
Yeah, you took us, Joe, you took us to hear that Dixieland music, you remember?
Oh, yeah, that was in Jackson, and in one of the clubs. That was the New Bourbon Street Jazz Society. We played Dixieland music, and I still sing songs in some of those places in the karaoke and piano bars. And
You and Charlie must have been the team.
Yeah.
Well,
Sounds like it.
He got me lined up with one song. I did this song, New York, New York. That's Sinatra, the old Blue Eyes tune, you know. And I sang that one, and that was what we used to do. I've got this smartphone. I might have one of those videos on here, but y'all probably don't have time for that. But Charlie was a promoter. Now listen, I tell you what, he should have been. He could have made a good lawyer too because he could set up all this stuff, and he was smart. And he knew he was smarter than the average person. I'm talking about IQ wise. Because I used to give those damn IQ tests. I was going to be a psychiatrist. I studied pre-med in college, and Charlie would score real high on these Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale and the Stanford Binet and all these tests, and he was smart even when we were barely out of our teens, 25 maybe, 24. But Charlie was real intelligent too, and that damn that there, I shouldn't use any bad language on there. Yeah, I just said, damn, they did that and gone with the wind, didn't they? But,
We'll let you slide. You're from Mississippi. It's okay.
We'll let the occasional zinger fly. That's quite all right. Yeah.
It's casual.
we get called rednecks and a lot of other stuff. I won't use any adjectives, but I think California. I remember some. What is that? Ashcroft Street down.
Haight-Ashbury. Yeah.
That's where it all started. But maybe Betsy will tell you sometime where we went to one of these bars where they had everything imaginable. All just it wasn't Haight-Ashcroft. It was some other place down there, and these people were something else. But I enjoyed it. But and y'all have some beautiful theaters there in Santa Cruz. I'm gonna visit back over there again sometime. But anyway, Charlie and I, we did. Charlie wrote some stuff too. He could write a sonnet, and he wrote some prose and stuff like that. But I don't know whether he ever got anything published. But he knew a lot of stuff. And what else? I guess what else do you want to know? Just we went to college together.
What years did you go to college together? I'm just curious. What years were those?
Let's see, we were at University of Southern Mississippi in 61 and 62.
Wow.
And I did graduate work after that, and then went on back to Jackson to the University Medical Center, and I was studying clinical psychology, and I was going to get going to medical school, and then do a residence in psychiatry, but I dropped out of it because I got married. So sometimes that changes things, you
Certainly.
know. And listen, let me ask you this. I pulled up something on this smartphone. I watched about 10 videos that you all have on the Voices from the Village. It was about homeless people and stuff. You know, the ones that y'all got a number.
Yeah.
But will this be on a video where I can see it on about the Charlie's Memorial on a smartphone, or would I have to go to a computer to do that?
You mean this program that we're doing right now?
Yeah, is it on streaming? Or will y'all be on streaming?
Yeah, actually, if you go to communitytv.org right now, you should be able to stream it live. I'm not sure if you can do it through your phone, but definitely through an internet-connected computer that's got like a video player. But you can try on your phone. It certainly might work. Just go to
Well, I looked at something earlier, and y'all were talking about how you Charlie helped a lot of people with the homeless.
Yes, he did. No question.
Yes, he did.
And I looked at one of those earlier. So yeah, Betsy told me earlier about communitytv.org. Is that it?
Yeah, so you can watch the live stream of this show at communitytv.org, and then you were probably looking at some of the dozens, if not hundreds, of Voices from the Village show that are online. You know, our man Ken, our producer here, has been posting them for a while now. So there's definitely a lot of old Voices from the Village show that you can watch anytime on on YouTube if you just look for Ken Nobler's channel.
After the show tonight, I will email you the link to tonight's show.
Beautiful.
So you can watch it there.
That.
And then once you're watching them, you can usually just wait till it runs through, and it might just start the next video. So you'll be able to see all a year's worth of shows.
My email, you could text message that to me. I don't know if that'd be as good as email, but I got an email address too.
Well, actually, I've got your email because I communicated with you through the YouTube comment.
Well, make sure. Tell me what email address you have. I've got another one now. I'll see if that's the same one.
I don't know that it was a link in YouTube. When you emailed me your comment, I simply replied.
So I think we've got it, Joe.
We'll get a hold of you, Joe. Don't worry. Absolutely. After the show.
Well, it's joegsimplify@gmail.com, but that old.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. Thank you, Joe.
That's perfect. That's perfect. I'll send you a link to the video.
So nice. And next time, I went to the studio where you all are. Charlie took me down there when I was there 5 or 6 years ago, and y'all really do a great job. And but I wish I could get a link to look at all these shows because I enjoy that.
I will send it to you.
But listen, Charlie was quite a guy. He wrote a lot of stuff, and he never tried to get anything published. But good night of mine, he might have been another Beck or Steinbeck or something, you know.
He was the Steinbeck of community TV.
Yeah, he was. Longtime producer here. An award-winning producer at that, too. Multiple award-winning producer here. Voices from the Village show. It joined the elite 150-plus show. That's probably well over 200 by now. you know, and certainly won the producer of the year as well as show of the year several times. So yeah, Charlie was an artist here at community television.
And you know the guy that played the sheriff on Dukes of Hazzard, James Best, he just died, by the way, also.
Oh, well.
But,
Nice.
you remember James Best? He played the sheriff on the Dukes of Hazzard.
Not all Roscoe.
Roscoe, that's him. Well, see, he lived in Jackson for years, and Charlie and I knew him in Jackson. And
You actually knew the guy?
Yeah, this guy, James Best. He just died last week also.
Wow, you knew Roscoe from the Dukes of Hazzard. Charlie did too?
Yeah.
Oh, listen, he was a genius. That guy, he set up a theater here in Jackson, Mississippi, the little theater, and you know, a lot of people got their start. I think Judy Garland and just a whole ton of people just walked into a studio and they just hired them, right? But you know, that's where they got their start, in little theater, just like y'all have in Santa Cruz. People have talent, and you never know who they are till you see what they can do.
That's the truth.
But this guy, Charlie, knew James Best real well, just like I did. And we used to all get together all the time over at this person's house. And then, of course, he went on back to, he came on out to Los Angeles and did that series. And he played Charlie Noon on Gunsmoke also, James Best did, with James Arness. You know, James Best played Charlie Noon on Gunsmoke. He played that. If you ever see that, you'll enjoy it, because he was a very talented actor, which you all know, I'm sure.
Yeah.
James Best. But anyway, Charlie could get in with people. I'm telling you, he had charisma about him that was unbelievable.
Yeah.
He could do it. Now,
Any friend of Charlie's, certainly, yeah.
That darn Parkinson's can drag anybody down. That's what he had, and. Of course, there's so many forms of dementia, good Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, there's 100 of them around, and I hope I don't get one of them. I hope none of us do.
Well, we hope that's true as well.
What's beautiful about Charlie was never let it stop him. I mean, right till the very end, he was producing a show with the support of his wonderful wife, St. Betsy, and I mean, it's, yeah, I mean, he never let that stop him by any means, and let's hope for the best for all of us. Do you have any final thoughts about Charlie, Joe? I mean, like, maybe you could share a particularly wild, wacky memory or something. One of your favorite memories of Charlie that you thought might be appropriate, because it sounds like you guys had a lot of fun together. But one of the more appropriate ones for our audiences, if you want to.
Well, just some of the stuff we did in like in that Silkies. Some of that we'd get up on the microphone and tell jokes and all that stuff, and I'd embarrass him because I got a line of gab a mile long, and I'm bad about using bad language. But you know, you can get away with that now, but you couldn't back in those days, and they'd cut the mic off, but old Charlie'd go cut it back on, and we'd just keep on with it. But I would like to say this.
Please.
Betsy could never receive enough what she did for Charlie. She really saved his life. I mean, she was with him. You could never repay her enough for what she did to keep Charlie going.
Amen, brother.
I'm just telling you, you could never praise her enough. So I mean, I really appreciate what she did for Charlie. Of course, I was her husband, but I'm just saying. And I hadn't talked. What's so crazy? I just talked to him on the phone about 2 weeks ago, but he couldn't talk. I could just hear him trying to say something. And Betsy was saying he hears what you're saying, but he can't talk. So he had lost his voice, I think, a lot of his communications. But he never lost his mind. He knew what I was saying, and he could. And Betsy said he was responding. He would grin and stuff like that. Now he must have died right after, maybe 4 or 5 days after that. I guess I can't.
On July 4th, Joe.
Yeah, not a coincidence that he died on a day that celebrates freedom.
Yeah.
Certainly. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Joe, very much for all your recollections and kind words for Charlie.
Thank you, Joe.
I appreciate. Yeah, I appreciate y'all letting me go in there, and I'm going to pull this up on Voices of the Village.
Great.
And bless all of you, and y'all are great people. I think the world of you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you,
Talk
man.
to you later.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
for calling in, please. Yeah.
I wanted to ask
Thank you.
Betsy, I didn't realize that Charlie was in the South in the 60s. Was he politically active then in the movement, all the struggles they had down there with integration and that kind of thing? Do you recall, did he ever talk about that?
I know that he was a liberal person. I don't think he was involved with those movements. I think he had already started to move towards this side of the country because he couldn't take the he couldn't take the atmosphere in the South.
Yeah.
Not a
So
surprise.
yeah, I'm not real, I'm not real up to date on him in his early years. I pretty much know where he grew up in Vicksburg, Mississippi, and I got to visit that town when we were on our honeymoon, and we got to stay with one of his friends who had done so well in real estate that he practically owned the whole town, and so we stayed in a mansion on the lake, and he drove us all around Vicksburg, telling us all the history of the big battle there.
Yeah.
And then I spent a little bit of time in Sardis, and a little bit of time in Jackson, and a little bit of time in on Beale Street in Tennessee, where the music comes out of every door, and the smoke comes out of every door, and the jazz comes out of every door, and the food is great. Yeah, it was quite a trip.
Well, I just wondered because so Charlie's had such a great passion for social and economic and racial justice. I was wondering kind of where that well sprang from.
I believe it came from his mother.
Really?
Yeah, he was very connected with his mother, and she was very much a social activist type of person at heart, more the spiritual type, but that's where he got the deep feeling.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, I just want to point out that our friend Joe called Community TV, and if you're watching this show tonight live, July something, help me out, guys.
July today. It's the 12th.
July 12th. Well then, see right there, you can call in.
That's the beauty of live television. We figure out the date eventually.
425-8848, extension 30. Come on, guys, you got to back me up here.
That's right.
Well, Louis looked at his watch.
I looked at my watch. I had to check the date.
Someone's in charge here. The saddest part is now that I look down at this little control center, it's right there.
It's right there.
It's right there.
Everything you need is right
Sunday,
in front of you.
July 12th.
Exactly right.
Call us up, please. The point of that whole ridiculousness is please call us, share your memories of Charlie. We want to hear from you too. Charlie would want it that way, I think. More people calling in, more folks just saying what's up. So please.
Yeah, if you knew him, please call us and tell us what you remember about Charlie. We were on this social justice theme here just a moment ago, and one of the very early shows, we're going to show another clip right now. One of the very early shows that Voices from the Village did was in 1999 at the demonstrations against the WTO, the World Trade Organization, in Seattle. I think it was in November of '99. It was late in the year.
November 30th.
Okay, thank you.
1999.
Charlie
See, you working with
Phillips
numbers.
and his co-host, we're going to call him on this one. They both traveled to Seattle to cover that. As citizen journalists, they're not affiliated with community television, yes, but with no.
But they did have official press passes, so they were able to get into all the meetings. They were very proud of that, yeah.
Okay, so there they were, and if you recall, in 1999, these huge protests, and this was like the first real big demonstration against the whole anti-globalization movement, and that was the one that got everyone all excited. That was the beginning of this movement, which continues today, in the form of Occupy and other things like that. So we have a clip from that show, and you're going to see Charlie on the street in Seattle in his reporter garb. He's got a hat. He always had great hats. And then also Joe Grossman is on the street, and they both have mics, and they're describing what's happening, and there's a lot of action here. So let's see that clip right now, please.
We'll be back right after this. We'll be back right after this.
We're here at the Seattle Community College protest, the WTOs, on the day of the 2nd of December. Charlie Phillips with Voices from the Village.
Say again, sir?
Charles Phillips with Voices from the Village, Channel 71 Community TV, Santa Cruz.
Oh.
So you feel justice is not being served in labor. Because of the WTO, right?
Right. I mean, the WTO uses labor to make all its profits. Who does the work? You know.
What have you seen of the action at the protest?
I took part of a nonviolent protest that was in an intersection with about 150 to 200 people.
Joe Grossman from Voices of the Village here in Seattle in the midst of the protest. Things have calmed down for a few minutes here. There has been tear gas used today. The protesters are holding the line. The police are behind him. We'll be covering the events here today.
Would I like to say something? Well, I think the WTO is the most undemocratic institution that has ever been created. An international undemocratic institution. And it's up to us to do something about it.
All right.
Charlie, look out.
Whole world. Voices from the Village, Channel 71 Community TV, here at the site of the WTO protest.
The whole world is watching! The whole world is watching! The whole world is watching!
Get that man, get that
man. The police are advancing. The police are advancing without cause.
We've been it was unprovoked, this tear gas, and it's been in the midst of the crowd. There's only civil disobedience here. Channel 71, Voices from the Village, Charlie Phillips.
Powerful images from the streets of Seattle, brought to us by Charlie Phillips, Joe Grossman, and the PJ. PJ, what was it?
PJ Group.
PJ Group.
And the camera work. Right.
Great. Well, Charlie, was that sort of your inspiration to get started with the Voices from the Village?
Yes, it was, and Voices from the Village had been active prior to '99, but it was eye-opener and we wanted to make people aware of the truth, really what was going on among the corporations and how they were. Jim Hightower was there, the whole Canadian musical group, activist group was there, and it was an exciting time. It was a trying time. It gave you the truth, which is, a lot of people don't want to listen to the truth, of course, but it was a time that very thoughtful and provocative, and we were able in the final run to shut the corporate trust, WTO, down, and it made people think it was a time of honesty and people marching. As Bill Oates said, wasn't going to church anymore. He wasn't going to march anymore.
Yeah.
But bloody he did.
That was an absolutely historic protest, and I mean, I think people remember that even to this day as sort of the launching of the anti-globalization or corporate globalization movement here in the States, and sort of people had started to see the disastrous effects of NAFTA, and to think here's this whole organization expanding and promoting that on a global level, I think really activated a lot of people in the States, and just appreciate that you've done that for so long, Charlie, that you've been really bringing voices to the voiceless.
Hear, hear.
And helping to produce Voices from the Village, because it's given me the opportunity to really enjoy this show. So I just want to say good job and thank you, Charlie.
We'll continue.
I hope so.
With all the good work, these people I have at the table, Louis, Steve, and yourself, and you, we'll all make it happen. And we we do accept donations.
That's the truth.
Hear that,
That's
folks?
the truth.
There you go.
CommunityTV.org. Just go there and PayPal away a donation, please.
You know, what strikes me about that clip is the absolute fearlessness of his reporting, but also how proud he was of community TV, Voices, Santa Cruz. It just comes through. He's proud of his roots, where he is and who he's representing. So it's very moving, you know, that he felt that strongly about it. Yeah.
I already said what I was going to say. I mean, you saw my opinion.
Okay.
I remember the hat. I remember when I bought him that hat, and fit him perfectly. I remember that coat. And I remember when he called me and told me that they had got footage of the police firing tear gas on the protesters, and that they had used it on the television news in Seattle that evening. Yeah. And that they hadn't got paid anything for it. But they do accept donations.
Let's put it this way: Charlie wasn't in it for the money.
Right.
Although he may have worked in the industry at some point. I mean, Charlie did this show really for the love of the show and for the justice causes that he and I think we all believed in, believe in, continue to.
And thank you to Community TV for being here and, you know,
Such a
giving
great
him
vehicle.
life.
Mhm.
You know, it was what kept him going. All of us here.
Yeah, and this is, another, and of course, as you said, another passion of Charlie's was the idea, just the very idea of community television, community anything, you know, but particularly this idea of giving a voice, putting a microphone in front of people who normally weren't able to speak.
A voice to the voiceless, as Sandino
Yes.
so aptly.
Right. And I remember reading an interview with Charlie many years ago. I think it was before I even knew him. And it was about the program. And somebody asked him, well, what does Voices from the Village, what village? And he said, well, the global village.
Yeah, there you go.
Right? Of course, because we're all in this together. It was this concept that we are one thing.
Looks like we have a friend.
Can we get
Yay! Hi, friend.
Hi, friends.
We get a camera on our guest here. We have someone at our studio mic. So,
Hi, I'm Giselle, and I am so glad to be able to speak. And when I first met Charlie, it was started here in 2007, and I started with my own political justice with the prison system, and I was on his show at that time. And then I collaborated with him in a couple shows for stopping the light brown apple moth spraying, which we won, you know, yahoo! And we really kept on that for a couple years, which was awesome. And then I got to actually experience a side of Charlie that was so touching. 3 years ago, we had a company picnic, and I was performing a song, one of my songs, Don't Doubt It, real positive song. And Charlie was out there dancing, and it was amazing. It's to see the moves. He had such life and spark in him, and I was so touched. And then I was also downtown doing a concert later that year, and he was walking by with Bessie, and he started dancing again. That man had a lot of moves. You must have had a lot of fun, Bessie, dancing with this guy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And every time I would come then to supervise the show or do whatever and meet him, he would go, "Are you dancing? Are you doing some dancing?" And saw the glimmer in his eye. And I really love that part of remembering him. So thank you. And thank you for taking care of him so well, Bessie.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're here.
thank you, Giselle.
Thank you, Giselle. Yeah.
Thank you, Giselle.
If you'd like to share something, of course, feel free to call us at area code 831-425-8848. If the robot picks up, just hit extension 30, and you're in there. You're in there. So please call us up and share your memories as well.
So we've seen some clips from the old days and a recent one that you hosted, Sandino.
Yeah, that was, I think, end of
2014?
Yeah, just the end of this year.
Yeah, not too long ago. And we saw, you know, Charlie unfortunately suffered from Parkinson's his whole adult life, as far as I know. And you saw a later stage of it there. But, you know, in spite of the fact that he was, as with all Parkinson's patients, was, you know, was not in total control of his physical movement, you could hear that his brain was still totally there, and he never lost that. And that was one of the things I really most admired about him. You know, Parkinson's is just, it's constant, and you're always debilitated. It must be such a struggle to live with that. And this did not slow him down. He produced this show and did whatever in the community. He was at this event or that event. He was there. He showed up and he did the stuff. It was as if, he had complete physical health. And it's quite apparent that he did not, but he never let that stop him.
I know you just bring this up, and it just really made me laugh the other day. Charlie was persistent, and I'll admit I'm not the best host sometimes, and I don't return my calls.
It ain't so.
I don't return my calls as quick as I should sometimes. So Charlie would keep calling me, and he would leave messages, and it was just clear that he was struggling to talk sometimes, and there were better days and worse days. But he would leave these messages, and I would sometimes understand everything, sometimes I wouldn't. And there would just be these immigration, this Sunday, and I would just get 4 or 5 words out of there. But I would know, we have a show this Sunday, and I need to be there, the subject's immigration, and it was just so, it was so Charlie. I mean, I went back and listened to some of these. I still have many of them actually on my old phone. And it was just really, after the memorial service, I just went back and listened to some of those and kind of just laughed. And I'd played one aloud for a friend one time, and he was just like, what the heck? That's my producer. He's telling me what the show topic is this week. And it was just hilarious. He didn't let it stop him. It's so true. It's so true.
No, right, yeah. We're going to, as we've said, the show ran for 16 years. Well, it's not ending.
No. It's just the first 16 years.
We will continue. Yeah. We will continue. But Charlie produced many, many shows and received many awards. So we're going to show some of these right now. Let's see. Let's start with, I think, number 14 is a Lifetime Achievement Award from Community Television.
Yeah.
For producing the show for so many years. The next one is Program of the Year. And Charlie, as the executive producer of this show, he won this award several times.
Yeah, that's 2007's award.
6 times.
6 times.
6 times Program of the Year.
6 times, yeah. That was, yes. I was part of the show at that time, and it was just such an honor to work with. Again, he had a vision, he had standards of professionalism, and he made sure that the shows got done in a very professional manner. There's let's see, a portrait of him at number 16.
There you go.
There he is, as a younger man.
Handsome devil.
Yes, and then producer, let's go to 17. That's the 150 Plus Club.
Right.
And programs produced here at Community TV.
You think about that, that's 2011. So, I mean, we're sitting here 2015. That's 4 more years of shows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I would not be surprised if that man's over 200 at this point.
Oh, I'm
Right.
sure he's
And yours
over
are good with
300,
numbers, so.
because this was 150 plus starting in about 2005. And so there were 3 years we were out of town. And so there were all the shows that he did from 1998 to about 2004. And
That
he
don't
was
even-
doing
don't even
shows,
that count?
he was doing shows, 4 shows a month then. So Charlie, so in 1 year, how many is that? 52 in a
That's
year.
4, that's
So
200.
that was 150 before he even left town. And then he did another 150 and more. Charlie did a lot of shows.
Yeah.
Too many to count. Too
What
many.
an archive, yeah,
Too
that's
many,
not-
it's like
I
the
don't know
stars
what-
in the sky.
We have another shot here, it's another certificate. I don't know what it is, but let's put it up, number 18. There it is, Talk Show Voices from the Village, and
Best
I'm not
talk
sure
show.
exactly what the award is, but numerous awards, a long and storied history.
Best Public Affairs Program in 2008. Look at
Okay.
that.
And then let's go to the next one, which is a statement that Charlie wrote
Oh, yeah.
about WHAM. And WHAM, again, is the Women's Alliance for Medical Marijuana, founded by Valerie Corral here in Santa Cruz. And Charlie was a patient, or a member, rather, of the collective, and also a very strong supporter of that. So I'm just going to read this aloud. Charlie Phillips, my Parkinson's was so bad I could barely walk or talk. Valerie Corral, was working with my wife and I to find something to help with my symptoms. And one day she suggested that I try THCA. When my wife gave it to me for the first time, in 15 minutes I sat right up and said, let's get out of here. Now I have the energy to talk, swim, walk, and play bingo. I'm getting stronger every day, and I'm enjoying life more. Wham makes my life better. I am Wham. And I know Charlie featured that issue on this show more than once. I remember doing a show with Ben Rice about, who's a local attorney, who was Wham's attorney. And I did a show with him when we were doing the Bill of Rights series.
Oh, really?
Which is how I started. We did the whole Bill of Rights, one amendment per week for 10 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a great show. I learned a lot. And Ben Rice, of course, was that, and he talked about it from a legal point of view, why Wham was a constitutional sort of thing.
You know, I don't know whether we're going to have time to get to it, but I did want to mention there was a wonderful memorial for Charlie at Calvary Episcopal on this last Thursday. An outpouring of sympathy and kind words and testimonials, the likes of which I don't think I've seen in Santa Cruz for a long period of time, filled the chapel at Calvary. Had a wonderful reception afterwards where people were able to deliver testimonials. One of the folks that was there was our good friend John Malkin, and I know that Ken had taped a testimonial from John, and I was hoping we'd get a chance to hear from John, who is a very eloquent and articulate guy, and his words for Charlie would be,
Thank you so much.
It's like you host this program or something.
It's the first thing on my list, and we just went right past it. So let's run that. The John Malkin talk. This was filmed outside of Calvary Episcopal at the memorial.
Charlie, I missed you already. I met Charlie in 1989, right when I moved to Santa Cruz, and we were both involved in the Christic Action Team, my introduction to social change organizing here in Santa Cruz. And since then, we've both stayed deeply involved in social justice work and doing lots of different organizing and art and video and music and all kinds of stuff. And we've stayed close, and I love Charlie. And through all of it, ups and downs and difficulties, and seeing some of the changes we would have liked to have seen over 25 years or more, still really joyful celebration of life, and it's something I'm really grateful to Charlie for, always reminding me and us reminding each other to laugh at all of it and to really enjoy all of the precious, beautiful moments that occur all the time. And Charlie, even while he was suffering with different physical ailments, he was still laughing and telling jokes and stories and reflecting on the beauty of life. And I'm grateful to know Charlie Phillips.
The words of John Malkin, who you can hear every Wednesday night on Free Radio
as
Santa
Betsy
Cruz.
knows, John actually did a reading during the memorial itself, and I didn't realize that John and Charlie have been close over the years. Betsy, is that right?
Yes, yeah, John and Charlie were very close, and it was a beautiful reading, a beautiful service.
Yeah, John, I'm also friends with John, and John told me that Charlie was the first guy that he really got to be friends with
Is that right?
when he came to Santa Cruz.
Oh, wow.
So they go way back.
And he was on, I think it was the second show that Charlie did with Joe Grossman. They did a show on the Police Review Board.
Right.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
John helped start
John
that,
Malkin.
yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm being told
Shout
we
out John Malkin.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And Allison and Bodie. Whole gang.
I'm being told we have about 2 minutes left, so I'm gonna. 1.5. 1.5. So let's just
Last
have
words.
final thoughts.
My thoughts are that I was honored, very flattered to be asked to be a host here. And the thing that I've learned over time is that the Voices is a family. Betsy mentioned all the names earlier. I was going to mention them, and you'll see them as they roll the credits. It's very much a family, and that's what Charlie gave us. He gave us a sense of family, a case of belonging, a very close personal relationship. And in my life, that's rare. So for me, as long as there is a Voices, there will always be a Charlie Phillips.
Here, here, well said. I mean, just thank you for the opportunity, Charlie. Betsy, really, just, I don't joke when I say St. Betsy. Everything you did to help him do this show brought so much joy to my life, and I know everyone else is here, all their lives too. So really is just such a gift, and one that I plan on keeping moving forward. And I'm glad to say that we, tentatively say we have a collective formed that we are now going to have more Voices from the Village coming at you. So stay tuned, definitely.
I'm going to let you have the last word, Betsy, but I'd just like to say that Charlie was one of the great people I've ever known, who his vision, his persistence, and everything about him was just, quality. It was just a fine human being. And he invited me to produce or to host this show back in the day. He didn't really know me, and I think he took Joe Grossman's recommendation that I would be good at it, and it turned out to work out for everyone. So it was a great opportunity for me to do something that meant something to me and to be part of this whole thing. So Charlie, we will miss you, and Betsy.
Presente.
Please.
Charlie saved my life on more than one occasion. Charlie always led with the heart. And as Charlie would say, love, love, love. Love, love, love.
Okay, we're going to go out with a couple of shots here of a photo of Charlie. So let's put that on the screen. And thank you all for joining us tonight on Voices from the Village. The show is not ending, even though we've lost our guiding light, but we will continue on. We will continue on.
Charlie, we miss you. We'll see you on the other side.